Hey there. My name's Danny Leibrandt, and I'm the founder of Pest Control SEO, where we grow pest control companies with SEO. Today, I am with Kyle Roof, who might actually be our biggest guest yet. Kyle Roof is super well known in the SEO space, also done a lot of things in the local space, and he is the founder of High Voltage SEO. He's the founder of, let's see, there's so many companies I can't even keep track. Founder of Internet Marketing Gold and founder of Page Optimizer Pro. So Page Optimizer Pro is a software company helping you optimize on page. High Voltage SEO is a SEO agency, and Internet Marketing Gold is basically having courses and community for SEOs to help them test and grow. So I can't even express how happy I am to have Kyle on. Honestly, I didn't think he would come on. This is such a big guy. Anyone who's in SEO, I'm sure you've heard of him. I've watched tons of his podcasts. So much knowledge, so much value. So glad to have you on, Kyle.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, of course, man. So can you tell me, you told me you got into SEO about 11 years ago. What was that like? Were you transitioning from something else, or was that your first thing? And what was that like?
In a previous life, I was an attorney, and I was a trial attorney, and I was in court every day, and did that for about 4 years, and then I took a year off, and that year off turned into 5 years off. And in that time, I was teaching English in South Korea, and while there, started a kind of a web design and development company on the side, and that
Wow.
grew, and from there got into the marketing aspect of it, and I was a much better marketer, or at least a much better SEO than I ever was as a general contractor for websites.
Interesting. And okay, so you just experimented building websites. When was that? About 11 years ago?
Like 2010, started a company in South Korea with a Korean business partner, and it needed a pretty complex website and had to go through a lot of developers to find a group of guys that could actually do it. And once I had them, I realized I was like, we've built this site, and it's really complex. And it's more complex than any other website out there. Excuse me. I'm so sorry.
You're okay.
So sorry. um, yeah, so we built a really complex website, and then I had this core group of guys that could build sites, and I was like, well, maybe I should just general contract websites. And so that's what I kind of started doing. And in that process, I realized I'd heard of this thing called SEO, and we'd built sites for people, and I was like, well, maybe we could get like, $100 a month or $200 a month out of them going forward, providing like hosting and tech support, and then also SEO. And yeah, the very short version is I brought my brother in. We decided to open up a company in India. We got raided by the police. My brother's in jail. We got him out of jail.
Wait, still okay.
Do you want the longer version?
Yeah. I want to hear all of it.
We were told you're going to get a shakedown from the police because that's just kind of how it works.
Shakedown for what?
For a bribe, for money.
Oh, okay.
That's how business works in a lot of the world. And the police show up at the door, they knock, and they're like, hey, we'd like to see your papers. And my brother says, okay, here are our papers. And they're like, these are the wrong papers. He's like, okay, how much do you want? But instead of asking for the bribe, they put him in handcuffs and throw him in jail.
Dang.
And then the chief of police goes, look, these could be the right papers, I don't know. But you have two choices. One, you can leave town tomorrow, or two, you can sit in jail and wait for the magistrate to come, and the magistrate will sort it out. And my brother goes, well, when does the magistrate come? And the chief of police goes, I don't know. My brother goes, I think I'll leave town tomorrow then. So he gets back to the office. Our employees have fled because they obviously don't want to be involved in this. And he grabbed what he could. We got him out of the country. And then because we didn't have any employees, we were hemorrhaging clients. And my brother goes, look, I can take these four because he can code. And he could take that, and I don't code. And we had just taken on a few SEO clients. And so basically for me to pay the rent next month, I needed to learn SEO that day.
Dang.
And figure out what I could do and to keep those clients, and that's basically what I did. And then it turned out I was pretty good at it, and I was able to kind of reach out and get some more clients. And then I was very fortunate meeting my business partner on a project, and then we decided to start an agency. And we actually worked together for about a year before we ever met in person.
Hmm.
And yeah, things went things went all right there. It sounds, when you tell the story of your life, one, you're always the hero, but two, it seems linear. It's like, well, we were
Hmm.
here and we got there, which is true, but in the moment there were a lot of ups and downs. Like getting my brother out of India overnight was not a fun or cheap experience. And the company, I think I put about $30,000 in that company, and that was a point in my life where I had $31,000.
Wow.
And so, obviously, falling back on law was an option, and that's not the
Mm.
worst fallback plan. But it's something I didn't want to do
Hmm.
whatsoever. So, yeah, I figured out how the SEO game works, and I took to it rather quickly, and uh, yeah, the rest is history from there. The agency took off, and then from the agency, the other companies that you mentioned all spun off of the agency, where we were able to take something and peel it off and have it become its own company.
Okay, awesome. When you first started the agency, did you see it like did you think it would ever get to where it is now? Did you have like a big vision for it, or was it kind of just you started it just because that was something to do?
Um, it was the company was started with the idea that it wasn't going to be a forever job.
Hmm.
That it was going to be built to sell, and we did have a merger about a year and a half ago, which was nice.
Oh, really?
Um, and now I'm on the board more of the agency than running the day to day. But that took about 8 years to get to that point where we actually had something that could be acquired or could be
Mm.
merged in with another company. And it takes a lot to figure out how to run a company, and then most agencies are just a book, and that's not really something that anybody wants to buy because they could just do marketing and get your book. And so, structuring the company in a way that it would be something that somebody would want to merge with, that took a lot of effort and time, and you have to figure that kind of stuff out. And having the structure in place, having a repeatable sales funnel in place, and like a sales team in place where you have steady leads and you're closing things, and then also having IP that goes with the company as well, were things that kind of had to be established in order to have an agency that could be merged or acquired. So there's a lot of work that went into that. And then in the process, as we were doing that, um, also realizing that this wasn't our forever company, that's where we were definitely encouraged to like start Page Optimizer Pro as a separate company. As we kind of peeled that off of the agency and ran that, and now continue to run it as a completely separate company. And Pop is not my forever job either, because you really have to build things with the idea of selling. One of the biggest things that, and people who start their own companies will learn this, is that you don't really get paid until you sell.
Mm.
Um, for example, uh, we have multiple servers in Page Optimizer Pro, and maybe about 6 months ago, I figured out a way where we could save about $4,000 a month, which is great. That's lovely. But that $4,000 doesn't really go into your pocket, and then the value of that $400 doesn't get realized until there's a merger and acquisition. If you think about, you can do about 5x on revenue. So, that 4,000 is 48,000. So just under $250,000. It's $250,000 what that idea is worth. But I'm not going to see that money until there's an actual event where
Mm.
the company is bought or sold. So whenever you have those great ideas or you have those things going on, it's only worth something at the end. And so you really should, I think, be building all of your companies with the idea of some sort of an acquisition or merger.
Definitely. That's good. For someone like me who's maybe more of a beginning agency owner that's looking to, eventually get sold or potentially do a merger, what advice would you give to them about doing something like a merger?
Yeah, you have to have a predictable sales cycle. Um, if you get up to clients that are above a couple thousand a month, you're into the four, five, six, even plus, kind of clients. The sales cycle takes a long time. Probably looking at 4 to 6 months, and so you have to have a way where you get information out in front of them. They start to watch your stuff, or however you're marketing yourself. They watch your podcast or your YouTube show, and they get to know and like you because people still buy from people. And so you have to have that face of the company that's getting out there and presenting, who you are and what you do. you need a point of view. If you don't have a point of view, then you're just another agency, and then you're probably um, just a price differential, or maybe how quickly you deliver. But people need to know why they would come to you. So, this is the pest control podcast or SEO podcast. That's excellent. So the idea is that pest control is where you're at. That makes sense to a lot of people. So then when people who are in pest control, they know that you have your expertise in that. So you have a brand and a point of view. But a lot of people don't have that. They don't have, and it's not necessarily niching down into something, but just having like, why should somebody come to you? What is it that you're going to talk about that might be different from the crowd? Because if you don't have that, then you really don't have anything. You have something proprietary that you've done, something that you're doing that is your own, that could be sold as IP. And then your SOPs have to be remarkably tight, so that if there's a key person within your company that leaves, the company's not going to fold, because somebody else can step into that role and do it very well, because there's an SOP that a well-trained Cocker Spaniel can follow and be rather successful with. Seem to have those things. The last thing is you have to sell on and up. Everyone thinks about selling when the company goes flat or down a little bit, and they give this pitch of with your vision, the company was doing well back here, and you can bring it back up. Nobody's buying. They only buy when you're on the up, and you can show that the up will continue. And then their thought process is, I can bring in my innovation, and it'll go even higher. So you can never time the market, but you can see when things are going really well. And if you've kind of tapped out or you've gotten to a certain level, then that's probably a good time to sell when you're on the upswing.
Cool. What goes into a good SOP?
Something that I hear all the time is, there's so much in SEO where you have to make a decision or something like that. How do you put that in? You can put everything in an SOP. That's absolute garbage. You can't, because everyone wants to think it's mystical or magical, or there's this art to it. And I mean, there are decision tree times for sure, but they're pretty binary, where it's like, if you see this, then it's that. And if you see this, then it's that. And then your SOP can fork from there, and then you go down a certain thing. But literally everything can be in an SOP. And the SOP should be done in a way that it would take minimal training for somebody to look at that SOP and be able to follow it. And you want an SOP for everything. Because if you don't, even if it's something that's fairly routine for you, you are reinventing the wheel every time you do it. You have to rethink about the process. That takes mental energy. That takes time. You're wasting time and money at that point by not having it written down in a very tight SOP, so that even you yourself, if it's something that you've done 1,000 times, you can still follow the SOP and you don't have to think about it. But then it should be done so that the next person comes in, because you should be taking responsibility off of your plate so you can grow your company, not figure out how to build local citations. Somebody should be able to follow your SOP on how you want those local citations done, and done such in a way so that when they check all of the boxes, it's been done correctly.
Definitely. And are you doing just in a Google Doc, or are you also doing video SOPs for everything, or is it in Asana?
We run things through Asana.
Okay.
And then there's going to be videos for things that need to have videos, and then a Google Doc as well, usually with extra information. So that's all in a little description. And then you go through and tick the boxes. Now, if you have staff and you're training somebody, the best thing to do is to have them send an email to you, like they were sending an email to the client, explaining what they did and why it's important, and what was accomplished and what it looks like. And then you'll find out if they understand what they're doing or not. And then you'll find out where the holes are. You teach them, and then have them rewrite that email. And they can continue to rewrite the email until they get the words right. And then you know that they understand what they're doing. So you can train them through those SOPs. One other thing I would recommend is, if you've got a staff right now, let's say you've got some VAs that are doing work for you, have them write the SOP that they're working on. And then you'll see the holes in their game, the things that you thought you told them to do, that you thought they were doing, that they're not doing. That also saves you from doing the SOP, and then you're coming through and editing. The last point on SOPs I would make would be that they're not biblical texts. They're living documents, and they should change.
That's good.
They're not written down once in stone, and That's all there is to it. Like as things evolve, your SOPs should evolve, and as you learn new techniques or things might tweak or things might change, that's then the opportunity to change the SOP. So you have current SOPs, so that when you again want to have an acquisition, yeah, the person stepping in who will be buying it from you knows that they can now run this company without you being there.
Awesome. You were kind of touching on that, like having these SOPs in place and letting your clients know of what you're doing helps reduce churn. You've been running your agency for over 10 years now. What else, what other advice can you give on reducing churn for an agency?
One of the biggest things that we did that was really successful was in your reporting, benchmark how the page that you're working on was doing before you started your work. So a lot of clients get into the idea of what have you done for me lately, and you might have taken a client from 0 to 1 million in whatever metric you're caring about. But if you have a flat month, they're gonna be like, well, what's going on? Well,
Yeah.
it's like, well, hey, it was a flat month, and flat months happen. But if on the reporting you show where that page was performing before you started, those conversations usually go away. So for example, this page was getting 10 clicks a month and you're getting one conversion and it was ranking for 5 keywords, right? And then now it's ranking for 200 keywords. You've got 500 people coming and you're getting 20 conversions, whatever the numbers might be. On all the reports on all the pages, we put where that page was performing before we started. So when they're looking at that report, they're getting reminded of how good this work is, that you were all the way over there. And so if you have a flat month or things are slightly down, they're not freaking out because they can remember, because you presented it to them, how that page was when you started. And that has been a really great thing. Shifting to longer contracts. It's harder to land people, obviously, because it's an easy sell, or it's easier to sell, especially when you're starting off saying, like, we don't lock you into contracts. And if you're not happy, you can leave at any time.
Yeah.
Everyone starts with that. And what ends up happening in that situation is that you are reapplying for your job every month. And you're going to make short-sighted decisions because you're going to have to try to show that you did something shiny and flashy and amazing. When you have a longer contract, you can make more longer-term decisions on, okay, we're going to get this process started now, but this is a 4-month process for this to be able to see any benefit. And that's fine because you've got a longer contract. So getting people into longer contracts is excellent. I would say when we were on month-to-month contracts, our average person probably stayed with us for like somewhere between 11 and 13 months or something like that.
Okay.
And then going to 6-month contracts, that immediately went to like 19, 20 months of
Wow.
an average client. The other thing you get too are clients that are funded. As most humans live their life month to month in terms of the amount of money they're making, most businesses live month to month. They honestly don't know where they're going to be in 3 months, and it's hard to make a commitment. But companies that can make those commitments are funded. They already have the money. And if there's a slight turn in the market or in the economy, they're not overly stressed about it because they're already funded for their activities for the year.
Okay.
So you just get better run companies, and that will reduce your churn as well.
Awesome. What would you say are your favorite kind of clients? I'm sure you've had clients from all different kinds of industries. Actually, I saw you had like Amazon and some other big players. Do you like working with bigger companies like that, or what kind of companies do you like working with?
I think Amazon has used some of our stuff, but I don't know if we've ever had
Oh, okay.
Amazon.
I saw that on
Maybe
the
we did.
website.
We've done something with them.
Okay.
We've worked with other huge companies though. But yeah, large companies are nice because you're talking to the marketing team. The worst client is the lawyer. Like, even if they're keep in mind I'm a lawyer. The problem is that like those kind of companies, businesses, they run themselves like a mom and pop, even if they're not. And so the lawyer, who owns the firm, wants to be in all the marketing meetings, and it's like, my guy, you're not a marketer. Hire a marketing team, and you should go grow the company. You shouldn't be in the smallest of the small. I mean, you should make high level decisions. So like when it comes down to like the marketing strategy, maybe that's where you should be. But in kind of those weekly or monthly meetings, that's probably not the spot. And they end up gumming up the works more than they help things, because they also think, I mean, they're smart people, right? Lawyers are smart people, but they'll be in a meeting with them, and the lawyer won't understand exactly how marketing works or how SEO works or how paid ads work, and they want to interject things, and it's like, this is just not helpful at all, and
Definitely.
it's wasting everybody's time and
Okay.
money. So
Hmm.
those are the worst to work with. But working with professional teams is usually pretty nice, where you've been brought in because they have an SEO team, even like they've got 2 3 people that are doing SEO, but having an outside firm to come in to help supplement and support. Those are usually the best situations.
Yeah, no, that sounds pretty nice. Usually, because I'm working with pest control companies that are doing around $1 million a year. So usually they're like maybe have one in-house marketing person, or maybe they just have an assistant helping with things. But usually, they're prone to working with agencies. So usually I'm almost directly to the founder or maybe to an assistant, and it's kind of hard to manage things like, hey, I've got to get some pictures this week. I know you're already working like 70 hours this week, but please just send me some pictures, you know.
No,
So
exactly right.
yeah, it can
Exactly
be
right.
difficult. But anyways, I wanted to get into Page Optimizer Pro now. So you started that about 8 years ago. Tell me about that. What made you start it, and how's it been going?
We were solving our own problem. We were using a piece of software for on-page, and we were having really good success with it. And then they changed it. They changed
Hmm.
the software, and they took out the feature we were using. And I asked him if I could roll back my version to the previous version that had the feature we were using. They said that we couldn't, and they were like, actually, that feature's not really good anymore. Nobody, it's not beneficial. And I was like, can I buy it then?
What?
Can I can I buy that feature from him? And they're like, well, no, 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 we're not going to sell it to you. It's like, okay. So then I was like, well, I'll just go. I was like, well, I'll just build my own then. And initially, we were doing everything by hand, and I had written this algorithm for determining um, different what you needed in different areas on the web page. And we were doing the whole thing by hand, and we realized after we did 2 of them by hand, I was like, we can't do this by hand. And so my other co-founder, Maria, she wrote a script, and we were doing it within Google Docs, and that was going fine until it just you run one Google Doc, it's fine. You run 4 or 5, and you break Google Docs
Hmm.
or Google Sheets rather. And so then Maria goes, I think this should be a Python script, and I think I can learn Python. So she went out and learned Python in 2 weeks, and in week 3, she wrote the first script that became Page Optimizer Pro. And then
Wow.
for a while, we ran that actually on the back end of our agency website, and then we started crashing the agency website, um, where like it was people were just putting in kind of like a keyword and a location in their email, and we were
Hmm.
emailing them a report. So then that's when we realized we need to get a real Python dev in here, and we built the first SaaS, and that was in right around May, April of 2018.
Okay.
And then people really started using it. It was pretty crazy. And then we got to the point where we had to charge because the server charge, the expense was getting kind of up there. And I was like, hey, everybody, we need to charge like $1 a report if that's cool. And so we did. And in that first month, it was June of 2018 when we started doing that. It was, and in that first month, we made $2,600, which meant we did 2,600 reports, and it blew my
Wow.
mind. I was like,
Yeah, that's a lot.
holy crap, there are 2,600 reports? And then within 3 months, Pop was paying for itself and all of its development,
Hmm.
and that just really blew my mind as well. We now do more than 2,600 reports a day. We do a lot
Wow.
more a day.
That is so
Yeah,
cool, man.
we're pushing. I think we're close to like 2 million reports run.
Wow.
Um, which was just the whole thing was pretty wild, and it's definitely been the most fun project I think I've ever worked on. Uh, it's just been, and then running a SaaS tool though is a completely different animal than
Hmm.
running a an agency, and so kind of learning how that business works. Churn is a whole different thing, and then you're dealing with more MRR and ARR kind of numbers to see if your company's healthy or not. How much are you investing in your development versus how much you're investing in your marketing is a whole thing. We've gotten lucky in that, I do a lot of shows. I do a lot of shows like this, and I'm on a lot of YouTube shows and podcasts, and I do usually a healthy speaking circuit every year, and so that's been really a good thing for us to move our marketing, where we haven't had to spend as much on the marketing and could put more into the development. But the tool's completely bootstrapped. We've never taken a loan. We have no debt, and the tool's been funding its own development plus paying salaries. So it's been a really good project.
Wow. That is so impressive, man. And can you tell the audience, for people that don't know, about what exactly Page Optimizer Pro does?
Oh, sure. It's a on-page SEO tool, and the idea is you put in the page that you want to optimize, and then we tell you which words Google wants to see and how many times and in which places.
Mm.
And so that Google will like your page more than your competitors, and you'll show up higher in the SERPs. We're laser focused on page, and so we have a lot of features, but they're all dedicated to on-page SEO. So we're not going to tell you your backlinks, for example,
Mm.
or what your domain authority might be or your domain rating might be. We're not going to get into those kind of things because that's not what we do. We're not looking to be an all-in-one tool. We think we've gotten on-page down pretty well, and we think our technology is better than just about anybody else's technology when it comes to determining stuff for on-page, and so that's what we're really focused on. So all the features we release are all dedicated to on-page SEO.
Okay, cool. And in terms of all aspects of SEO, how important is on-page versus off-page versus like branding? How important is it, and how big of a role does it play?
Well, the only page that you can't rank is a blank page.
Mm.
And so on page is extremely important, and that you have to have words on there so that Google knows what your page is about, and that they know to decide if they like your page better than other pages, and if it's the type of page that they're expecting. After that, though, there is a point where on page does end in terms of how Google evaluates pages, and then you do need external signals from there. But I can tell you that the better that your on page is, the fewer external signals you need, generally speaking. And if it's an easier term, meaning not a lot of people are going after it, or there's lower search volume for the term, often on page is all that you need to get that done. But in SEO tests, I've taken a blank page and I've thrown 20,000 links on it with a target keyword, and that page will not rank for that keyword. So you do have to get something on there, and so in a sense, on page might be the most important because the words do have to be on the page in order to rank a page. Now, people are very new to SEO. When I talk to people that are quite new and maybe they want some consulting, they'll say, I want to rank for this particular keyword. I'm like, okay, what page on your site are you optimizing for that term? And you'll often hear just crickets. And he'll be like, I'm optimizing the website. And it's like, well, that's not exactly, Google doesn't rank websites, it ranks web pages. And so if you have a concept or a term, that somebody would search for in Google, and it's really important to you and your business, you have to have a page that you've dedicated to that concept. And then that's where Pop comes in. So we can help you write that page so that you can get the right words on there so that Google knows that you offer that product or that service, and that Google will understand that and then will like the page that you put out so that it'll rank it higher than your competitors.
Definitely. Yeah, that's such a good little nugget that Google ranks web pages and not websites. And this, in terms of the kind of home service local business sphere, this is the location pages. Like those are the money keywords of like pest control Portland or pest control Houston. It seems like most kind of local businesses are trying to rank their homepage, and even some of their SEO agencies are trying to do that. When really, it seems like ranking their location pages is by far the most valuable. So have you seen that in local businesses? I'm curious what your experience with local SEO is.
Yeah, you need that individual page. So if you've got a particular type of pest control, I'm sure maybe for termites might be different than for, lizards. I don't know. So you might have those different services that you offer. Maybe you've got different, spray schedules, or maybe you've got emergency services or something like that. So you'd have all those things, and you'd have your locations as well. Because those are all probably terms that you want to win. So you're going to have an individual page for those. A quirky thing in SEO with Google is that sometimes Google just loves a homepage. And so it'll rank the homepage and it just latches onto that. So you still should have that internal page for that particular service. You still should optimize that. You still should send backlinks to it and get those external signals. And what happens is Google just continues to rank the homepage. But you will have more success if you've got that internal page rather than the homepage. The homepage should be a business card. Who you are, where you're located, what about you, and then you should have what they call schema, which is words that search engines look at. You should have schema on the page identifying that you are a local business and you're here and you're founded by this person, you've been in business this long, all that kind of stuff that goes into the schema so that search engines can understand, oh, this is a pest control company in Dallas, and this is what they do, and these are their opening hours and that kind of stuff. And then that helps Google understand who you are and put it into the search. But that should be on your homepage. And then you should have services and products and locations on internal pages after that.
Okay, awesome. One thing I want to make sure to ask you is that you got a patent 4 years ago for SEO testing, which I haven't heard of any SEOs in the space get, which is super impressive. And I believe, let's see, I think you've done over at least 350 tests now. And I wanted to ask you, what have you learned from all this SEO testing?
I've learned a lot. The biggest thing is that things don't change as much as people think they do. I think that statement, like Google changes all the time, just really comes from a lack of knowledge. The core part of Google doesn't change. Now, Google does pull the lever and they turn the dials a bit. Most of that is on the periphery, where they're going after people that are trying to game the system. The other thing they do, though, is they might decide they just don't like a particular type of site, such as somebody that's hiding who they are and they're selling supplements to seniors. Google wants to know, is this a real company? And there are a lot of people that don't want to show that it's just some dude in his basement selling stuff off of Amazon, right? And so Google will do something to get those sites out of the SERPs. And that's often, it's not fair, because sites that are not doing that will sometimes get wrapped up by Google into become a part of the carnage of a particular update. But by and large, what I've learned through the testing is that things stay primarily the same when it comes to how things rank, how Google evaluates a web page, how it looks at external signals. They just kind of turn the dials on what they like a little bit more here or there. But when people don't have the ability to test, or they don't have somebody they're talking to that is testing, they usually start to freak out because they just don't know what's happening. As you know, in the last year, there have been some massive updates in our industry that have really shaken things up for particular types of sites. But I've run through all my original tests from like back in 2015, looking at, does Google look at the H1, the H2? Does Google looking over here? What about this or that? And all of those things, all those foundational things have remained the same.
Yeah, can you talk more about the recent changes in the past few years or so? Like what's been going on in your analysis?
So late last year, there was the helpful content update, which really shook up a lot of things. And then there was the March core update of this year, which also shook up a lot of things. And if people are not familiar with the term affiliate site, an affiliate site is a site that, say, ranks for the term best vacuums 2024. And then somebody will go to the site and be like, oh, okay, here's some vacuums. And then they'll look at it and be like, okay, I like this vacuum, I want to buy it. And when they click to buy, they get taken to another website to complete the purchase. For example, they might be taken to Amazon. And then they'll make the purchase there. What happens is the person that had the site, they get a commission sale. Google hates those sites. Google's been hostile to those sites for 5-6 years. And what it looks like in those last two big updates is that Google just really decided to drop the hammer on them and get rid of them. Google doesn't like it, I think, from a user perspective, in that if there's a problem with the vacuum, where can this person go to get help? Unsophisticated user will think that they're going to go to that original website that sold them on the idea of the vacuum, and that guy's going to say, I have nothing to do with this. You need to talk to Amazon, and that's going to be very confusing. What if they're harmed by the vacuum? The vacuum turned on them and now they're hurt. Who can they go for redress? And the person that sold them on that vacuum is going to say that they had nothing to do with the sale of that vacuum. So what Google's looking for are companies that are actual companies that are taking responsibility for the things that they're selling, the words they're putting on the page. One of the two biggest things they're looking for is who's responsible for this website and who's responsible for this content. And are there real people? Is there a real entity behind this thing? And so affiliate sites, by and large, a lot of those people don't want to show who they are, and they don't want that responsibility. Understandably so. But as a result, Google does not want them in the SERPs. And so those last couple updates, I think, have done a good job of removing them. Now, in the industry, a big question is, how did they do that? And Google likes to say, or likes you to believe, that they did it algorithmically, meaning they have a bot that's gone to the page, and that bot can see what this is, and it's the type of thing they don't want, and they removed it. And I don't think that's what they did. I think what they did is more manual. Now, there might be a bot that's thrown off the red flags, but I think what they've really done in a lot of cases is they've manually done this, where they've gone through and said, okay, I don't like these sites. And they put those sites on a naughty list. And in that naughty list, they've either been knocked down in ranking or they've been removed entirely. And the reason is that a lot of the things that they hate are things that are very difficult for them to identify by a bot. And so I think they needed to make a big splash and put a lot of fear into the industry that you shouldn't do these types of sites. And the only reason, and it's not like you're breaking any laws. There aren't Google police that are knocking on your door to say this is evil or wrong, because it's not. It's just that Google doesn't prefer these sites in their search results. And so what I think they've done is to try to scare people away from building more sites or doing it again, is to make this very big, loud splash in late last year and then the first quarter of this year in order to get rid of these sites. And then it's been effective. It's the last 8 months has been some of the saddest that I've seen in the industry, with a lot of people losing their sites and getting upset. Now, people that are in the pest control are real things. They put out who they are and their certifications, and you contact them and they're actual people. And so I'm sure if somebody is in the pest control space that's listening to this, they don't even know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because their sites weren't affected in the slightest. Because Google is happy to see that you can show where your address is, and you've got a phone number, and you've got an email, and reviews that are real reviews of your service, that kind of thing, that shows that you're an actual thing. So this kind of stuff has only really affected these affiliate sites, and maybe some content sites as well.
Okay,
sites
cool.
that are just trying to tell you about like where to travel, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Sorry. Do you have something else?
Please.
I've seen in the pest control industry, very few of them have gotten hit. Maybe if they have like a ton of AI pages or, a bunch of stock images, whatever, then they might get hit. But otherwise, not much, because they're actually a real business. It's not like they're an affiliate, again, in like their mom's basement or whatever. But kind of to piggyback off of that, one of the big things you talk about is EAT and now EEAT. Can you explain what that is and how that affects local businesses?
Yeah, really, with just the bottom line on both of those is, are you a real thing? Are you taking ownership and responsibility? And so you need to show a bot that you're real. And so the bot is going to come through and look for some things. That's going to be an address. That's going to be an owner. That's going to be a team, the About Us, the Meet the Team page. That's going to be different email addresses if necessary. So some companies need email addresses for returns and refunds and PR and stuff like that. Those would be all different departments. Do they have those kind of things? Do they have privacy policies, and do they have disclosure in terms of services? So it's never one thing to tick the box with EAT, but it's doing enough to show that for your particular niche or whatever you're selling or doing, you've met the industry standard according to Google to establish trust. The biggest thing is just trust. Can Google trust this site? Should this site be in the search results in the first place? And that's what that is. And initially, it started off with what they call your money or your life sites, and those are sites that deal with finances or health. Then I think it's spread to pretty much every other site. And it's probably triggered by some level of traffic. Once your site gets up to a certain level of traffic, it probably triggers an EAT check to see, okay, you're getting a lot of traffic now. Are you a legitimate thing? And so the more that you can show Google that you're an entity, like a thing that exists, a real thing that exists in time and space, the better off you are. And again, it's not one thing, not one aspect, but it's doing as much as you can to show that you're real. So for a pest control, this would be showing your address, showing who your founder is, having a local phone number. Those email addresses, not just a weird contact form on one page that, probably goes nowhere. You've got multiple modes of contact. Having your Google Business Profile, formerly known as a GMB, having that completely filled out and done correctly. And then the address that you're putting on your website, and you're also putting into your schema, you're also having in your business profile, your Google Business Profile, and all of that matches. Because that should match. You should care. And then you've got local citations, that you're maybe there's a pest control board or certification that you have,
Mm.
and that you've got that going. So you're showing all of those things, and all of that information is consistent across the web, and it's consistent on your website. Those are the kind of things that show that you're trustworthy. And if you do enough of that, then you should pass EAT. EAT is one of those things also that if you do it, your ranking is not going to go up. A lot of people said, hey, I did all the EAT signals that you talked about, and my ranking's going to go up. Well, they're not. They're not ranking factors at all. But they're the kind of things that help you keep your ranking once Google does a check. Now, if somebody's like, I don't believe in any of that, that's fine with me. I don't worry about anybody else's website or anybody else's SEO. But all those things are also trust signals. And so if somebody's coming to your site and you want them to contact you, they're looking for all those things anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So at a minimum, these are good things to get the sale, to get somebody to call your service, to hire you. And I think it's things that you should probably have. So even if you don't believe me, which there are some people, you should do this in the first place. You should show the people that you want to hire you that you're real, whether or not you believe Google's checking or not. But I can tell you that Google is checking. So it usually takes about a half a day to a day to get all of it done. Anyway, it's usually not terribly tricky if you're a legitimate business and you're registered somewhere as you should be, then you should be fine. And you just get it done and get it on your website.
Okay, awesome. So in 2022, Google switched from EAT to EEAT, which for people that don't know, it was expertise, authority, trust, and now it's experience, expertise, authority, trust. Did you see a big change there, or was it always kind of the same?
No, so experience is the amount of time you've done something, and expertise would be like your education or your certification. But when you read the guidelines or the quality rater guidelines on that, it's pretty clear as mud as to what a distinguishable difference between expertise and experience really is. Somebody that has expertise has experience is about the line that they say. So that's not the the most clear explanation on what you need to do. But the one thing is that they've got this little like Venn diagram looking guy of the E, the A, and the T, and in the middle is the T for trust. And they're like, if you don't get past the trust area, then the other things don't matter at all. And so trust is the absolute most important thing. And I think trust comes from showing that you're real. And so I would focus on that more than anything. On the authority side of things, I think you're looking at, do you answer all the questions? Is your site the kind of place that people would go to get information? So if you're thinking about to yourself one day, like, what should I do to have a good SEO game plan so I get more traffic? How can I help myself with maybe this EAT stuff? Answering questions is a great way to do it, because you're establishing that your website is the kind of place that people can go to find the information they need about the service or the product that they're looking for. And so answer as many questions as you can, get that on the website. It's going to help you rank for things because people are asking those questions, and then they can come to your site and get that information, but it's also helpful for when Google comes in. On the experience and expertise, the only thing I would worry about there is showing that people are real. So, the founder of the company, having a page about that founder, mentioning the certifications that they have, the amount of time they've been doing this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and having that in that, and then that schema thing that we've talked about, you can put all of that within schema so that when the Googlebot comes, they can read all of that inside the schema and easily understand what you're saying, to show that if there's a certain license you have to have in certain areas to do certain types of pest control, that you've got that, and you're a member of the pest control business group in the area. That's great. And it's showing that you've got these things going on that make you an expert, and that you've got the experience to get the job done. So anything you've done or anything you have to do, that's great stuff to go on the website, and that's something that I would definitely put on to take care of the both E's at this point.
Okay, cool. How important is schema? I think that's kind of controversial.
So the most important thing is organization schema, and that says who you are. Are you a nonprofit? Are you a church? Are you a pest control company?
Mm.
Google doesn't look at the websites. It doesn't have eyeballs. It can't just glance and be like, oh, this looks good, or I
Hmm.
understand what this is about. It has to try to decipher all of that information, and so the easier you can make it for Google and any other search engine, the better.
Mm.
And all search engines have agreed that they can understand schema. The schema just basically says within code, so it's underneath the text. It's something that you wouldn't see as a human, but it identifies this is the name of our company. This is when we were founded. This is who founded us. This is when we're open. This is our address. These are the locations we service. These are the people that we work with, etc. And you can list a lot of things in schema. You definitely want that as a minimum.
Mm.
I don't know if pest control is one of the schemas. You might know more than me. I don't know
No,
if it's
you
one
have
of the
to
local
go
business
as like
ones.
a service business.
Sure. So then do that. So that's what you would use there. And then for the humans that work in the company, especially the most important ones like the founders, the CEOs, that level, and then anybody who's writing content on your site, I would have author bios for them. I'd have person bios for them.
Okay.
After that, the only other schema I would really worry about would be if you're actually selling a product, because there is product schema, but if you're doing pest control, it's probably just more service based, so that's not anything you need to worry about. So I would just do the organization and then schema about my people,
Okay.
and then I think you're good to go.
Awesome. Now tell me about Internet Marketing Gold. I heard about Page Optimizer Pro and I heard about High Voltage SEO, but I actually didn't hear about Internet Marketing Gold. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so we've semi-rebranded ourselves as IMG Courses. So the website is img.courses because we're focusing a lot more on the courses aspect of things. I have 4 or 5 courses in there. One's on page SEO, one's on white hat SEO. I think we have 55 courses in there right now, if I'm not mistaken. We put in a new course just about every month, so the content stays extremely relevant to SEO, and it kind of goes from beginner all the way to expert, kind of depending on where you are. Um, there's something for you there. And then also there's the forum that we have, and people can ask questions, and you can actually ask questions directly with me. There's a whole Ask Kyle area, and so you can pepper me with. For $97 a month, you can ask me all the questions you want.
It's a pretty
That's
good
basically
deal.
what it comes down to. The only thing that we are not is that there's some like you buy a course and they take you from building your website like all the way through, having then this pest control website and stuff like that. I mean, this is not that. There are courses that tell you how to do that type of thing, but the courses are independent of themselves. It's not like a cohesive how-to guide. But if you're interested in doing a certain type of SEO, local SEO, for example, we have a few courses on that. Um, things about on-page, things about how to build backlinks or get backlinks for you. Like that, all information is there, but it's in specific courses for those types of things. So it is definitely meant for somebody that wants to learn how to do SEO. And that could be, though, again, if you're a beginner all the way up to an expert.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out. I'm interested in that. You have so much expertise. I've listened to all the podcasts you've been on, totally love them. So
If
definitely
you
will
like the
check it
sound
out.
of this voice, there are a few hundred hours on that,
Yeah, you've got a
on
good voice,
that
man.
platform where you can listen to me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. Something I was also interested in is that the 3 companies that you run that we've talked about, you're a co-founder in all of them, which I found that kind of interesting. Is there any reason why you co-found all of your companies instead of just solely founding it yourself?
Yeah, you can't do everything.
Mm.
It's the worst idea ever.
Huh.
Um, I got really lucky in that my business partner Andy, uh, he is the actual marketer. I'm an SEO, but I don't know if I'm actually an actual marketer. And when we talk about like what do you need to sell, your SEO, you need a marketing team
Mm.
for your own agency so you can
Mm.
sell your own stuff. And that's a concept that I think eludes a lot of agencies. But Andy's a marketer and he knows how to market and he knows how to put funnels together and stuff like that to market us. And he also understands how to run a business much better than I do. The reason we have money in the bank is because of Andy.
Hmm.
Where I come in is in more the product development and putting together the concepts and the techniques, and this is what we need to do in order to solve this problem on the strategy side of how we do things. That's where I come in, and so I'm able to do that, and I'm also able to be the face of the companies and do these types of shows. So I was able to find somebody that I completely respect and trust and is very talented in the things that they do, and I think we complement ourselves very very well, and that he's handling a lot of those aspects of the company and then I'm handling other aspects of the company. so that we
Okay.
can kind of work towards that common goal.
Cool. And what advice would you give to someone else finding a co-founder? Do you have any like bad stories, or has it always worked out?
I wouldn't know. I don't know how I got so lucky, to be honest. I have no secrets or tips. One thing I would say is I've done a few things in the past where you're like, you consult on a project with somebody, or you do something small with them, and I have found that if I have any kind of ick from the start, it's just not going to be good.
Mm.
It's the same thing when you're taking on clients. When you just get that feeling like something off here, go with your gut on that. And if you're in a situation where you just feel like, yeah, this is right on, that you trust that, and it's not wishful thinking, this is right on, like, okay, this is the right thing, I would feel better about that. So trust your gut. If any red flags, if you have the smallest red flag right now, that is just going to become a massive red flag later, because it's not always going to run smooth. There are going to be times where you have disagreements, and you need to be with somebody that you trust completely. Like when Andy and I, when we have disagreements on things, if it's in his sphere, his purview, I will express my position, but at the end of the day, I'll defer to his decision.
Mm.
It's the same thing on my side. If this is more on my side of things, I'll listen to what he's saying. I'll take it into heavy consideration, but at the end of the day, he will defer to my decision. We now, with Page Optimizer Pro, also have a third business partner, Maria. She is the product lead now on the tool, and we'll defer to her decision on product lead stuff.
Mm.
So we each kind of have our own zones. There's obviously some overlap here and there, but overall, if it's kind of within that person's zone and there's disagreement on what we're going to do, at the end of the day, you have to be able to trust them and to defer to them. So if you find yourself that you would not be able to defer an important decision to somebody else, then that's not the right business partner. You have to be able to say, like, this is your thing. I trust you. I'll back any decision you're going to make. And if you can't do that with that person, or you feel like there's no way I would, that's probably not the right business partner.
Mm. Okay, cool. Good to know. Yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat myself, and that kind of reaffirmed my situation, which is good, which is kind of actually the opposite of your dynamic, but I'm the sales and marketing guy, and the guy that I'm bringing on is the product guy. He's been in local SEO for 10 years, and this is all he does, and he just loves fulfillment. I love sales and marketing. So kind of having that unique balance, and anything he says, I'm like, well, this is, how I've been doing citations, but if that's how you want to do it, dude, I'm just going to defer to you. You take it.
That's what you have. And if you feel comfortable with that, then that's the right guy. That's the right one to be with. But if you're like, I don't know about it.
Yeah.
I think then that's when it's not the right guy.
Okay, cool. Another thing I wanted to ask you, which is actually maybe the most, not unique skill, but something that a lot of SEOs are lacking. I think there are a lot of people that are total experts in SEO, but they haven't developed their brand or voice at all. Like, basically what I'm saying is that you've become a huge figure in the SEO space. You have tens of thousands of followers. You've been on numerous big podcasts. How did you do that?
I can tell you when it happened. The 2015 was the first conference that I spoke at, and real high level conference. And for this particular year, they had about 40 people there, and it was the kind of conference where you can talk to the people on stage. And I was brought in to talk about running SEO tests. And I thought this would be where I share my ideas and techniques about testing, and then people in the crowd would share theirs, and we'd have this good combo. And about 5 minutes into the presentation, I realized no one's doing this whatsoever. Not in the slightest. And to me, it seemed very obvious, and it was very effective, and I was learning how the algorithm works. And so I remember walking off stage and calling Andy, my business partner, being like, okay, here's the deal. We can frame ourselves as a scientific SEO company. And what we realized, so early on, we had this line when Andy and I were the ones doing the sales, where it'd be like, we know you're talking to other SEO agencies. When you talk to them, ask them what tests they're running right now. And we knew the answer would be they aren't, or they make something up, and ask for specific results, or ask the results of their last 2 tests, that kind of thing. And then if they're not running a test, just keep in mind that means they're testing on your site. That means they're learning on your site.
Dang.
we test over here, we learn over here, and then what we bring to the table are the techniques that we know move the needle, or have the best chance to move the needle. Because SEO is a game of probability. You're not going to be right 100% of the time, but you can be right more times than your competitors. And so the techniques that you bring to the table have to be ones that have the best chance to move the needle. And we've run these tests over here, and we know that that's what this is. And we were able to get a lot of clients that we probably didn't deserve early on, at least, with that line. And then so I was able to get into this space as somebody that runs SEO tests. And this is the method that I run in, and now I have a patent on the technique for running SEO tests. Again, that was the original idea on that was just more of a marketing stunt. And like patent pending, and then it came through.
Wow.
It's like, well, now we've got the patent. Because in a way, I do feel like I patent like the scientific method more than anything. But again, nobody else is doing this, and so I've been doing SEO testing for 9 years. I've shown my methods. I show how to do it. I encourage people to do it. I take people under my wing. Very few people do it. There is still space to be on the scientific end of the SEO spectrum. But to do things from a science perspective or from a math perspective, my line that I like to give when I talk is that the algorithm is an algorithm. And that means if you give it the math that it wants, you can be very successful. The words don't really matter. It's satisfying the words that it needs to see a specific number of times in specific places. And that's very math-based. And if you can solve that, then you can be very, very successful in SEO. And so that's the approach that we take. It's not, chicken bone SEO. You're not rolling and it's not pixie dust that we're sprinkling anywhere. We're actually taking a very scientific approach to this. And so that's the voice and the brand and the point of view that we were able to bring, which then set us apart from just any other SEO agency that's doing, standard SEO packages for you.
Okay, cool. And what exactly is the specific strategy that got patented? Is that the only way you test, or do you test in different ways as well?
No, there are several ways to test, but it's just the idea of finding the basic idea, a concept is to try to find a very small SERP, a SERP that there are not a lot of results in there, and you can find SERPs and rank terms where nothing else exists. So let's say you do it for a keyword that Google doesn't know. And once you get that, then you can optimize pages for that particular term that Google doesn't know. And then from there, once you start to tinker, let's say you have 5 pages that are optimized for the same term, and those pages are all identical, but they're the only ones in those search results. If you change thing on one page and you see if it goes up, then you have a positive factor. If you see it goes down, that's a negative factor. If it doesn't do anything, that's a non-factor. And then there are ways to repeat the test to verify the results, but that's how you can start to see, is this a ranking factor? Is this stronger factor than that factor? Is this a negative factor? If I do this, will it tank my page? That kind of stuff. And you can really learn how the algorithm works. And so that's the method that I was able to have.
Okay, cool. And last question I'd like to ask is, what does the future look like for you, Kyle? I mean, you've got these 3 companies, they're all going great. Are you looking to exit all of them or continue scaling? And what do you see as the future for you?
Next step is to sell the software. We're actually launching a new product within the software that I'm pretty excited about. Probably actually more excited than I've been about anything in this project for the last 6 months. But it's geared towards actually small agencies. If you want more information, call me.
Okay.
It's meant for small to medium-sized agencies where we can kind of help you with your content plan, kind of finding the best opportunities on your site, the best opportunities you're missing, how to create that content, and then how to interlink it, essentially. So kind of building out content silos. I'm really kind of jazzed about that. But once we get that rolling, I think that's going to dramatically increase our revenue from where we are. And from there, the plan is then to sell the tool or to merge with somebody doing something like that. So yeah, get this, we're calling it White Glove. We'll get White Glove off the ground, get that going. I'm pretty jazzed about it, actually, because it's a pretty good product. Not a pretty good, it's a great product.
Okay.
And then from there, yeah, I want to get retired. I'd like to live off of my SEO riches from there, and then we'll figure out a new plan. I mean, People like us, we can't turn off our brains, and I know that.
Hmm.
But I want to figure out that problem and find a new problem in a few years.
Definitely. And also, I have one more question. Sorry, but
Yeah.
where do you see like AI and ChatGPT coming into search? Do you think that's going to take over Google, or what do you think that's going to look like?
Yeah. Um, in 2022, I think AI was supposed to kill SEO, and then in 2023 it was also supposed to kill SEO, and then I think about 8 months ago it was also supposed to kill it, and it just really hasn't happened. And that's
Mm,
because my entire career SEO has died every 6 months,
yeah.
and this is just the one thing that AI is great at is helping you to get content out faster for sure,
Mm,
and come up with content ideas. That's it's excellent for that. And if you consider a lot of the AI stuff as like a good first draft, that's a great way to approach it. The people that have gotten burned by AI are the people that were like the 3 cent a word kind of copywriters, like out of the
mm,
Philippines, like the
yeah.
content farms over there. AI killed them, but otherwise AI really hasn't done that much. And the reason is that AI can't do SEO, and all that it can do is it can help you produce things faster, which is still phenomenal. But if you're bad at SEO, all it'll do is help you do bad SEO faster.
Hmm.
It's not going to magically fix your SEO problems. You can't push a button and now all your stuff is ranking perfectly. So,
Okay.
uh, I would, if I were a gambling man, which I am, I would the language models that we have now in this version of AI will be gone in 2 years, and it's going to be replaced with something else,
Mm,
and that might be more interesting. But I still don't think we'll have anything where you're pushing a button and all of your stuff is ranking perfectly. And we're
hmm.
also not, never gonna we're never gonna be in a situation where there isn't an algorithm doing the ranking. As long as there's an algorithm, that means there's going to be optimization.
Mm,
So while the landscape might change a little bit, if you're not locked into a particular tool, but or a technique necessarily for SEO, but you're looking more at the framework of it and why we're doing what we're doing, whatever tool comes along, whatever new thing comes along, it'll fit within that framework and you'll be very successful. A lot of people right now are getting out of SEO because they're nervous. That's great
mm,
because in the times throughout my career where I've seen this happen, where people freak out and they run away, that's where money is made.
mm.
And so I think right now is a time for opportunity. Um, all my businesses are doing just fine. Um, Even despite of like a lot of people complaining and a lot of services going down, mine are doing just fine. And I think if you're getting through kind of this maybe slight downturn in the economy of SEO, things will bounce back in 3, 4, 5 months, and you'll be in a great position to make a lot more money. So for me, I'm not worried about AI. I'm not worried about whatever the next AI is that's coming out. We'll have things that we can adapt. I'm sure there are things we need to use, but it will be just things that we're using. It won't completely take over the industry. So
Awesome.
I think the future's bright.
Cool, man. Good to hear. Well, it's so great having you on, Kyle. And where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, KyleRoof.com is my website, and my stuff is there, and there's a contact form on there that I do answer. And I'm on the regular stuff, LinkedIn, and PageOptimizer.pro is the software. If you talk to support and you have a question, you can get to me. And then img.courses. Also, you can get direct access to me right there.
Okay. Awesome, man. Well, so good to have you on the podcast. I learned a ton myself, and I'm sure my audience did as well. One of my favorite podcasts here. So thank you for your time, Kyle. I truly appreciate it. Thank you for coming on.
Well, thanks so much. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, of course. All right, Kyle. I will see you later. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Sure. Do I need to hang on for a minute to finish uploading this?
No, you're all good. You're all good.
Okay.
All right, cool.
All right.
All
Cool.
right, see you, Kyle. Bye.